Good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole for Monday, August 10th, 2026. My name is Oreen Chowdhury and I'm the chair of this committee. I will call this regular meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Wansley is absent. Rainville.
Present.
Vita.
Present.
Warren.
Present.
Osmond is absent. Schaefer.
Present.
Stevenson is absent. Chavez.
Present.
Whiting.
Present.
Palmisano is absent. Vice Chair Chugtag. Present. And Chair Chowdhury.
Present.
There are 9 members present.
Thank you, clerk. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. Before we begin the meeting, let me offer a friendly reminder to everyone that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. The broadcasts include real-time captioning to increase accessibility for our entire community. So it's important that all speakers be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to please moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. Colleagues, our agenda is in front of us. Are there any amendments to make before we begin? And we are using speaker management, so please jump in if you have any amendments. Okay, I don't see any amendments, so I will move to adopt the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries. We will start with our standing committee reports, starting with the Business, Housing, and Zoning Committee. And I will give the report as the committee's vice chair. So the Business, Housing, Zoning Committee will be bringing 20 items forward to Thursday's council meeting. Item number 1 approves a permanent expansion of premises and sidewalk cafe for Putt Shack. Item number 2 approves a permanent expansion of premises and sidewalk cafe for Bill's Bait Shop. Item number 3 is a resolution approving the Minneapolis Tourism Improvement District to continue collecting a service charge. Item number 4 approves 2 liquor licenses. Item number 5 approves 15 liquor license renewals. Item number 6 approves 2 gambling licenses. Item number 7 approves 4 gambling license renewals. Item number 8 approves a rezoning application for the Neighborhood Development Center at 2941 Chicago Avenue. Item number 9 approves an appointment to the Minneapolis Workforce Development Board. Item number 10 authorizes a contract amendment for pizza project at the Convention Center. Item number 11 accepts a bid for Target Center's interior doors. Item number 2 accepts a bid for the Convention Center concession stands remodel project. Item 13 approves a loan forgiveness for the Lindquist Apartments at 1931 West Broadway Avenue. Item number 14 authorizes an ownership opportunity fund loan for the business La Herencia. Item number 15 amends a previous contract amendment to correct the not to exceed amount. Item number 16 grants the 2026 Hennepin County Transit Oriented Community Awards and authorizes a multi-jurisdictional agreement. Item number 17 is a resolution accepting a reimbursement donation from the International Code Council. Item number 18 is a resolution accepting donation from the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials. Item number 19 approves a rental dwelling license reinstatement for the property at 2113 Ilion Ave North. And lastly, item number 20 is nominating an appointment to the Minnesota Ballpark Authority. And I'll note to members, this was sent without recommendation. And the other thing that I would just highlight that I think would be good for folks to take a look at is the resolution approving the Minneapolis Tourism Improvement District and the annual report they give. This was their first annual report that they gave to our committee following the ordinance that was passed last term, and just want to shout out Councilmember Rainville and Councilmember Wansley for authoring the Tourism Improvement District ordinance. So I think that's really something that we should take a look at. Members, are there any questions on this report? Okay, seeing none, we will now go to the Climate and Infrastructure Committee, and that's going to be given by Council Member Vita.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Climate and Infrastructure Committee has 18 items to bring forward. Item number 1 is sidewalk repair and construction assessments. Item 2 is the Gopher Garden large block event permit for September 3rd, 2026. Item 3 is the annual Target Together Core Week block event permit for September 14th through 18th, 2026. Item 4 is Target Together Core Week Community Celebration block event permit for September 16th, 2026. Item number 5 is the Loring Alley Live 2026 Music Festival for August 14th, 2026. Item number 6 is Mode by Flickr Large Block Event Permit for September 18th through 20th, 2026. Item 7 is a contract amendment with Hennepin County for road maintenance assistance. Item 8 is a non-governmental tax exempt parcel street maintenance 2027 assessments. Item 9 is non-governmental tax exempt parcel street light operation fee for 2027 assessments. Item 10 is a contract amendment with St. Paul for the EV Spot Network Project Agreement. Item 11 is a contract with the University of Washington Urban Freight Lab in support of the SMART Grant Stage 2 project. Item 12 is a contract with the University of Minnesota Center for Transportation Studies in support of the SMART Grant Stage 2 project. Item 13 is a bid for large diameter cured in place pipelining 2026. Item 14 is a contract amendment with Z Companies, Inc. for engineering and design services for the Northside Greenway Phases 1 and 2 project. Item 15 is contract amendments with Bolton and Mink, Inc. and Alliant Engineering, Inc. for engineering and design services for the 38th Street and Chicago Avenue, George Floyd Square Street Reconstruction Project. Item 16 is a contract amendment for Alliant Engineering, Inc. for Bloomington Avenue and Minnehaha Parkway High Safety Improvement Project. 17 is a legislative directive related to zero waste funding. And item 18 is the 2026 through 2029 Climate and Infrastructure Committee Work Plan. And I'll stand for any questions.
Members, are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Warren.
I have a question. In our committee meeting, I know that there were some presentations that we were going to take up. How are we doing that? Is that going to happen in the full council or?
Great question. We actually do have it on our agenda today. So it's item number 2. We moved contract with On-Course Home Solutions for Sewer Lateral Insurance Program here. And then in that meeting, the chair for the Climate and Infrastructure Plan just moved approval because it had been postponed and it was just going to be a few short slides, which is attached to the RCA. So we're not doing that presentation because under the discretion of the vice chair.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, great question. We will next go to the Enterprise Labor Relations Committee. That report will be given by its vice chair, Councilmember Whiting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Enterprise and Labor Relations Committee has 6 items to bring forward today. Number 1 is authorize an agreement with the Los Angeles Organizing Committee for the City of Minneapolis to serve as the host city for the LA 2028 Summer Olympic Games Flame and Torch Relay. Item number 2 is a contract amendment with Roshan Corporation for the Police Department Training Annex Build-Out Project. Item number 3 is a contract amendment with various entities to provide computer-aided dispatch and related mobile equipment support services. Item number 4 is a legal settlement for workers' compensation claim of Heather Bythall. Item number 5 is approving the establishment of one appointed assistant city clerk position to support operational leadership within the Legislative Support Division. And item number 6 is confirming the city clerk's appointment of Ken Daler to the appointed position of assistant city clerk for legislative support. I'll stand for any questions.
There are no questions from members. We will now move to the final report of the Public Health, Safety, and Equity Committee given by its chair, Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Public Health, Safety, and Equity Committee will be bringing forward 9 items. Item number 1 and 2, authorize a contract amendment with the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension for the Human Trafficking Investigators Task Force Crime Analysts and Investigators. Item 3, authorizes a contract amendment with Canopy Roots for Behavioral Crisis Response Services. Item 4, accepts the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Grant to support emergency preparedness activities. Item 5, accepts the Public Health Response Sustainability Grant to support emergency response. Item 6, accepts the Minnesota Department of Public Safety for bomb disposal equipment and training and authorizes an agreement for the grant. Item 7, 8, 9 are gift acceptances for staff conference attendance. And in the committee, we also heard a report from our city's trees program annual report. We heard a report from the Minneapolis Tree Advisory Commission 2026, so that annual report. We also heard an update on the policy and procedures quarterly report from the police department related to Allison Lucier and Davis Maturi. Members of the committee gave feedback for a more thorough presentation next time. And then we also heard an update from our Legislative Research Office regarding public safety policies and practices related to public gatherings and transparency, where there was an outline of a variety of different recommendations.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there any questions on that report? Seeing none, we will now turn to the 2 items on our discussion agenda. Our first discussion item is coming from staff at CPED, and it is related to Heritage Park developing a voluntary relocation plan. I will have Director Hansen speak more on the item, and we'll just give the director a little bit of time to get set up, and welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Eric Hansen. I am the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. And I'm here today to provide an update on Heritage Park and specifically to present a proposed Heritage Park voluntary relocation plan policy. The purpose of this policy would provide eligible Heritage Park residents who have health or safety concerns with a voluntary option to relocate. I'll walk through the current situation at Heritage Park, the proposed eligibility requirements, the relocation process, and the financial assistance that would be available through the policy. Before we get started, I want to briefly update you on the status of Heritage Park. As I shared with you last month, Heritage Park is a 440-unit mixed income rental community in Ward 5 that was developed in 4 phases. Currently, only 211 units are occupied with an estimated population of more than 680 people living in those units. Heritage Park has both rental and ownership units. It's a master plan site. The map highlights the 4 phases of the rental projects components that were owned in 4 separate subsidiaries by McCormick Baron Salazar, or MBS, on long-term ground leases from the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, or the MPHA. MBS built the rental housing between 2002 and 2006. There are several important developments that provide context to today's policy. Heritage Park continues to be in a court order receivership with Certus Financial. The city continues to work with Certus and Minneapolis Public Housing Authority to coordinate responses to the conditions that I raised last time I was here to talk to you about this. That last month, you approved $2.5 million for emergency repairs and relocation assistance. Right after that, the emergency management department set up the Heritage Park Coordination Group. That group focused on identifying and responding to urgent household-specific needs and working with the MPHA, the receiver, on potential outcomes, including relocation. That work included conducting a needs survey, communicating with residents, coordinating resources with partners, and tracking repairs by units, and hosting community hours. Starting in August, CPED resumed leadership of the coordination group as the process will require sustained effort, sustained attention as we assess the long-term plan for rehabilitation and work through the process of relocation. One outcome of this initial work of the coordination group was the identification of the need for an approved policy for voluntary relocation to support the funding the City Council already approved to assist want to relocate. And now I'll go through the policy. The policy is intended to fill an important gap. There are Heritage Park residents who may have health or safety concerns and may want to relocate, but who do not qualify for relocation assistance from other agencies. This policy provides voluntary relocation assistance for those eligible households. There are two primary components. First, there is a moving stipend to help cover the practical costs of moving. And second, there is a rent differential benefit that can help households manage the potential increased housing cost associated with moving to an appropriate replacement unit. Taken together, the estimated support illustrated in this policy is approximately $6,500 to $12,500 per household, depending on household size, household and unit size, and actual rent differential. And I'll get into the details of that shortly. Eligibility, eligible residents who have health or safety concerns can choose to relocate and receive assistance if they meet the policy requirements. Choosing to receive benefits from this policy is voluntary and for residents that are not in MPHA units. Residents of MPHA housing units are not eligible for these city benefits under this policy. MPHA residents will need to continue to work with them on transfers and available moving assistance from the MPHA directly. Currently, of the 211 occupied units, 128 are MPHA units and 83 households would be eligible for this policy. CPED is working to contract a relocation consultant to perform the work with the residents. A household must receive eligibility approval from that relocation consultant before moving. Households receiving rental vouchers are eligible, although they would need to consult their subsidy provider to understand whether accepting these benefits has any implication on their vouchers. There are several important dates in this policy. A household must have legally occupied a Heritage Park unit as of July 18th, 2026. That household then must report health or safety concerns to the city by October 15th of this year. And then the household must relocate outside of Heritage Park no later than January 31st, 2027. There is a 6-month extension that the CPED director may provide to that moving deadline in case of hardship to provide some flexibility. The next component in this individualized relocation assessment is this assessment services. Eligible households will work directly with the city's relocation consultant to identify an appropriate housing option based on the individual circumstances of that household. That includes household preferences, schooling and transportation needs, affordability, the availability of decent, safe, and sanitary housing, and any necessary MPHA approvals. The receiver has also indicated a willingness to allow for relocating households to end their existing leases and return any security deposits. We will encourage residents to seek professional legal advice regarding the implications of accepting assistance and ending their current lease. Resident choice and agency remains fundamental to this policy and our work. If a household cannot identify an acceptable alternative housing option and it does not have to proceed with the relocation. Finally, if someone relocates and later wants to return to Heritage Park, they would need to go through the property's standard new resident application process. There are two financial components of this policy, and I'll get into that in depth here. The first is a permanent relocation benefit. In simple terms, this is designed to help address the increased housing cost that a household may experience when moving to an appropriate replacement unit. The benefit is based on 12 months of the difference between a household's current out-of-pocket rent and the rent for the approved housing unit, taking into consideration any voucher benefits that they might have. The replacement unit must be appropriately sized and approved to be habitable by the relocation consultant. There is also a cap on the benefit based on the HUD 60% area median income standard and the 30% affordability threshold. The second component is a moving stipend. This is a flat amount based on bedroom size of the unit the household is leaving. It is intended to address practical relocation expenses, things like application fees, moving costs, transportation and utility connections, and that stipend ranges from $3,500 for a one-bedroom to $7,500 for the five-bedroom units. And importantly, $500 of the moving stipend can be made available early once the eligible household is met the relocation consultant and identified an acceptable unit, or when the CPED director or others approves other health or safety-related emergency needs. To give you a sense of the calculations, you see on this slide, it illustrates estimates of benefits. It provides.
Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director Hansen, for the hard work that the city has done in organizing this relocation policy. And I don't have a problem with the relocation assistance that's being given. I just have an issue with the fact that the individuals who are participant of Minneapolis Public Housing Authority are essentially being punished for being low to no income. We know that individuals who have low to no income and are receiving public housing are the ones who need help the most. And I'm upset at the fact that for the last several months, since the 23rd of March, since this was placed on my desk and I was brought to the attention of coming to meet with the 30 residents that were there above the office in the management building that were talking about the conditions in Heritage Park, there hasn't been a response of effort. And those are the people who are the most vulnerable. Those are the people who've been crying out for the longest. And they've been being gaslit by MPHA. They've been being gaslit by Property Solutions. They've been being told that their units have passed inspection. They've been told that they didn't need to move, that there is not anything that is wrong with the conditions in which they're living in. The thing that stood out to me the most in this relocation policy is the fact that there are people, you say residents, who may not want to relocate on MPHA. There isn't a choice, because if you're inspecting the properties and you know that there is mold on top of mold, that there are floors on top of floors, that there are walls on top of walls, that there's over 3,700 failing windows in that property, that the entire envelopes of the buildings have to be removed, the stucco has to be removed, the siding has to be removed, and in order to do that, you have to cut off all the utilities for the property itself. The fact that I was told by the fire inspector and fire chiefs that with buildings that are boarded with one or two residents living in there because the campus is cut like cottage or Swiss cheese, that with only one or two residents living in a building that it's not even safe, that in order to service that building in the event of an emergency, if there was a fire or anything, they would have to remove all the boards from the building, which would delay a response to a family. It is not habitable. If they have to remove all of the exterior envelope of the building, it's not habitable. If they have to go inside and gut the entire inside of the building to remove the mold, it's not habitable. If every roof in Heritage Park has to be replaced, it's not habitable because the water intrusion is there. So I don't know why MPHA, their board, their chairs, their whoever keeps gaslighting residents, saying that that this place is somewhere where they can be. And a majority, and they're taking advantage of not just low to moderate income families, but a lot of them are immigrant families too. We just had the entire city of Minneapolis through Operation Metro Surge talk about standing up to fight for our neighbors. And here it is, the people who need the most dang on protection aren't receiving it. No one's standing up to fighting for them, and this is their first tier of public safety. Abdi and Dominic have not come to the table and did absolutely anything that they were supposed to do as far as by right by these people. You make it optional and then you keep lying to the board, saying that these units are passing inspection and they're not? And we know, I've read the reports, you've read the reports, we read the reports. Did we not read the reports? We saw them. It's a real place. This is absolutely devastating and it's ignorant. I've lived in public housing. I've held a Section 8 certificate. I know how difficult it is to find housing, and I know how expensive it is to move. The individuals who are in desperate need of this assistance, the difference between them applying for apartment, paying a security deposit, or going out to go buy boxes is the difference for them having a roof over their head or not. They can't afford this. They can't. This is not fair to them. And Abdi, we're Sami's cheesing and happy and everything. Oh, we just built a new sustainable housing with solar panels and this, that, and the other on South Minneapolis. But according to your mission statement, you said that you were there to protect, preserve, and partnership and all the rest of this stuff with Minneapolis Public Housing Authority. That preservation means taking care of the stock you already got. How you planning for tomorrow when you didn't do anything about today? Doesn't make any sense at all. It's absolutely disrespectful. Affordable housing and public housing is not a sentence. And their health and well-being is not discounted because their income is low. Right. MPHA needs to get their shit together. That's all I got to say. The end.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Warren. I have myself in queue. Director Hansen, thank you for the presentation. Could you just walk through a little bit on how this policy was developed with your team and then kind of the real-time on-the-ground considerations and making it?
Yep. Chair Chowdhury, good questions. So if you recall, and if I can, I'm going to comment on some of the Councilmember Warren's observations here. Back a month ago, we were in front of you with an emergency situation. And when I spoke to you about that, we were talking about something with incomplete information. We knew that it was evolving, the situation at Heritage Park was evolving, and we needed to make sure that there were resources available for people who wanted to go. I will agree with the council member on the conditions of the buildings. I talked about the threshold question of, are the buildings worth saving or not? We have still not been to a definitive, can we save the buildings or not? I think we're on the side of the fence where we can, but I can't give you with total confidence that we can save the buildings. And to that point, that means that there is no habitable unit. And so when we were working at getting that resources, which I want to, thank you for trusting staff to come to you and working through stuff with incomplete information in an emergency, we then started to go to work. And we had Director Sayer here at the council meeting to talk about the coordination group that was stood up immediately after the COW meeting that I spoke with you. And that has been working and doing some assessments about what's happening. And that's where we uncover that under our current policies, we do not have the authority to provide relocation benefits unless we come back to you with this policy. So that's the reason we're here. And that was through that coordination group that includes, at points, the emergency management department, the other ancillary departments that were in that coordination group, like NCR or Neighborhood and Community Relations or Regulatory Services or the Health Department, as well as prominent CPED leadership and the city attorneys. And as we were working towards the kind of the transition back to CPED, we knew we had to come back with this policy. And so in earnest for a majority of the last 10 days up until Friday when we released this policy for you to review, it has been city staff, working with city attorneys and housing staff, and our policy research and outreach team working to craft what we've learned from people on the ground at Heritage Park. And so that's why we're trying to, what we have in front of you is helping people for a year of the extra cost, we think, so that they can meet it, and then figuring out what that stipend would be for moving. And we understand that the smaller your dwelling unit is, the least you're lower cost than the larger unit. So that's why we have a graduated benefit to units. And as we do that, we still continue to talk about what is the condition of Heritage Park. And I want to address, the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority continues to work with the city of Minneapolis. And I will agree that they have not been as forthright, but they are finding resources for transfers of public housing units within Heritage Park for those that have to move because they have decided that or determined that they're not habitable units anymore. And they're working towards resources for those that voluntarily want to transfer to other units. We have to they have resources, we have to hope that they are bringing those, and we have to expect that the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority is bringing resources for Minneapolis Public Housing Authority residents. The city is here because we make the discretionary decision that Heritage Park is important in this case, and we need to help the others that don't have that path out that MPHA units would, and that's what this policy is about. And I have to think about, at this moment in time, I'm thinking about what is Heritage Park now? What are we doing? How do we effectuate the funding in a reasonable and manageable way? How do we start working with the residents of Heritage Park that don't have a path out? This provides that option. And, get on the ground. We are bringing in a relocation consultant that will work with us so that can sit down with each individual household and work on where do you want to go? What works for your family? Where do your kids go to school? What other things do we need to think about? And that's going to take some time, and that's what we're going to manage. This helps us open that up so that we can start working towards that, and I think that's going to help. And then we can go back to say, how did we get here? I mean, we were just focused as much as we can on the conditions of folks in Heritage Park now. And hopefully we can get back, and then we can talk about how we got here. And I'm all open for that conversation, how we got here. Because we have to learn as a city, when we make these substantial investments into people's homes. This is not an affordable housing project. This is 400 homes that we invested in. And we had the front row seat to this development. And now we're at this condition. We have the same conditions we were supposed to abate with the consent decree. And now we're here. And so it is important and imperative for CPED to sit down and figure that out. We're going to work with the other departments that are within the city about what went wrong, and so we don't have this thing happen again. It does not delight me to be in front of you to talk about this, but it is important for the city to, when they know something, to do something, and that's what we're here to do. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I think for sure in part. I want to make sure we get to others in the queue because there's a number of council members. I did have a question, maybe perhaps for the city attorney. Could you kind of speak to the jurisdictional issue that CPED came across that's requiring them to bring this policy forward?
Sure, yes. So, good afternoon. So essentially, our existing relocation policies, for example, for redevelopment of a project, which CPED often uses, didn't fit with this one because there isn't actually redevelopment occurring at the moment. And then there's also a separate temporary relocation policy that is generally used as part of our lead abatement program that is really intended for a short term, right? Contractors go in, remove the lead, someone comes back within a week. And neither of those seemed feasible here, where the overall condition of the property and what the long-term plan is still unclear. And so looking at those existing options, there wasn't anything that fits squarely in this need of a voluntary relocation of an undetermined duration. And so that was where we just did not think either existing policy would work, and it would be better for everyone, and I think provide a lot of clarity, frankly, for folks within Heritage Park to understand what the potential benefits would be, and have some clearly defined standards and benefits for how those determinations would be made, instead of trying to just kind of cobble together something through two policies that don't really fit this scenario.
Okay, that's helpful. I definitely think it opens up other questions. My last thing, and then I'll pass it on, is what I see attached in the LIMS file in the RCA is not a typical policy format that we see. We usually see a policy resolution or an ordinance. Could you speak to what policy format this is that we are passing or voting on?
Sure. So this one was drafted and intended so it would be as clear as possible, so folks both within the city and outside of the city would get a clear understanding of what the benefits would be and how the policy works. And so we want this to be something that everyone can see, and I think it is written somewhat similarly to our existing relocation policies from CPED, but in terms of whether a resolution will be added to it or not, that is something that we're working with the clerk's office to finalize before Thursday.
Yeah, I can see that this is available clearly for the public to understand. I know for me, it's important that like we have clarity as a legislative body in what way we're approving legislation, right? Because we typically have an author, there's no author on this, right? And we also have a process that shows like this is when it's enacted. I also have some questions about like, do we have to pass something in order to void this policy? We are using the term policy really broadly, and up here, every time we've had a policy discussion, it had to be really clear in terms of this is the type of, it's a policy resolution, or it's an ordinance, or it's this specific thing. Additionally, I feel like and this isn't to speak against this, I'm no way in doing that. I just think we're having a big issue with how this is formatted and how we are taking this up as a legislative body. There's obviously a financial impact. There is the $2.5 million we passed, but there isn't an attached fiscal note. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't know if there is anything from Director Hansen or yourself, City Attorney, in terms of kind of those leftover questions in terms of policy format and then fiscal note.
As to the policy format, I think this is similar to other CPED policies, but we can certainly look at that and get back to you.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
On the formatting.
I hear that you're saying it's similar to others. We're voting on something, and I know that CPED has internal policies, so it would just be helpful, but happy to follow up later. Councilmember Vita, you're next in queue.
Thank you, Chair. Director, welcome back. Just a few questions about some of the things you brought up in the presentation. Have you selected a relocation consultant already? Do we know who that is, and when is that person going to start on this?
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Vita, we are working to utilize an existing contract through Public Works, so we don't have to do an RFP. And so we have a firm called SRF that we're negotiating a contract with. So it wouldn't be one person; it would be a group of people that we've used to do relocation when we do tax credit projects and other CPED funded projects.
What does SRF stand for? Do you
SRF is a multi jurisdictional or multi expertise firm that does engineering, land planning, helps with housing projects. They're I don't know how to define them. They used to be just purely engineering firms. They've now expanded their work. It's not uncommon for companies like this that have typically, unfortunately, have three-letter acronyms, and SRF is one that's been around for a while and has bought other companies that have done some of this work. So they have some expertise in relocation assistance. Okay. But we need people, we just need, I mean, to be honest with you, we need people that can just sit down with the households and work through their issues. And we think that's going to expand our ability to do that quickly.
Yep, I appreciate that. I'm just looking to make sure we have a trusted source, right? Like, I get it that we have a history with this group, and that's helpful, but I also want to make sure that the people who live here feel comfortable approaching the folks who they need to get. I mean, housing is very intimate, right? Like, these are people that you have to talk to about everything. So I just want to make sure that whoever you select is, and I certainly understand the process of an RFP and how long that can take and delayed, but, you know, I just want to make sure whatever choice that CPED makes, that these are trusted folks who we can rely on to be accepting and helpful to people around the needs they're facing, especially when you're saying things like, you know, it's going to be a lot of things. I mean, it's going to get complicated. It's housing, right? Like, these are 1-bedroom to 5-bedroom units. These are people who, you know, may have questions about things that existed when they didn't exist when they moved into Heritage Park. So just looking for a level of comfort from whoever is going to be this relocation consultant. My next question is, it seems like the numbers changed since we talked originally when you gave the presentation and you told us the 2.5 million would go to assist with that. The number was shocking. It was like over 600 people and 200 families that needed to be relocated. What is the number now, you think?
Councilmember Chaudhry, Councilmember Vita, yes, this is the part of the conversation we were having with you about, like, having imperfect information.
Yes.
And as we are putting together, learning about the powers we have under the existing policies and the need for the policy that's in front of you, that's when we looked at which agencies would then provide assistance. And MPHA, that's where we got a better understanding of who was in there. There's still 211. One household has left since the last time I was here, so it was 212 when I was back here. That's why you heard me say over 380 people, because I don't know how many people were in that household. We said 385, 386 the last time I was here about people that were in there. From our work in the last month, we have been able to discern that 128 of the households are MPHA units of the occupied units, and the remaining 83 would be eligible for this benefit.
Okay,
and
so
I don't
83.
know, and 83 households, I don't know how many people are in those households. I didn't do that analysis. But I will tell you, to your point about SRF and relocation, I expect 83 complex conversations.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I don't know how much staffing SRF has.
Yep.
That seems like a lot for 83 complicated households. Okay, so we know that we've identified possibly 83 households that could come through this city program. We don't know if they want to do it, but we've identified 83 households that could come through this program. And you said that MPHA is going to relocate the MPHA families. Is there a regular meeting, conversations with MPHA to talk about a timeline, or like, because what I fear with this is that when people start seeing the SRF families getting relocated at a pace, or vice versa, it could happen with MPHA, then there'll be some confusion, right? Like, people will expect that they can get the same amount of money that we're offering to the families who can go through the city program through public housing. And I don't know what that looks like. So who is at this table with MPHA, and like, how regular are you all meeting, and how is this gonna be communicated to the families, you know, the differences in the programs?
Chair Chaudhry, Councilmember Vita, very good question. We have, one of the stumbling points we've had with residents at Heritage Park is we cannot articulate what the benefits are. And this is one of those steps. We are taking these kind of in order as best we can. We are talking to the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority on a daily basis about their progress, about our expectations, about our partnership. We're talking with Certus, the receiver, on a daily basis. We're talking with PSS, which is the property management, on a daily basis. And so as we know what authority we have under this policy, we will then be putting together additional communications. We've hosted community hours already that we expect to do things like that, engagement, and make sure that we can demark the difference between transfer assistance through MPHA and voluntary relocation assistance from the city. So that's the, get the policy approved, then move towards how to communicate that to get our relocation group in place, then get settled, because we don't want to give people imperfect information. We'll give them the best, but we don't want to give them incorrect information where people think that it's going to go quick or slow or what have you. So we're working on that. It's like I said, since it's come back to CPED, we've been focused primarily on getting this policy approved, and then we will go to how to engage the community so everybody is clear.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess I'm just I'm just a little skeptical of like how you move forward with all these different moving parts and making sure people understand that I don't want people to feel segregated from something, right? Like, you're coming there with people who are eligible for housing, but I'm not certain that there's going to be a representative there from MPHA to offer up something too. So I don't want the woman who lives in MPHA to feel like she has to stay somewhere she doesn't want to, but the man who qualifies for the city project. So I'm hoping to see better coordination of like how this is launched and how it's presented to people in a way to help but not divide, not to make some people feel like they have an option and others to feel like they don't. And I guess that's what I'm gonna be looking to make sure is happening, because if I talk to people from there, I don't know like if they have a voucher or, you know what I mean? Like you don't know who has what, and it just feels better. Like if we go in there with a coordinated plan with everyone who should be at the table to help, going in together and, hosting people at the reception center to come in and get help if they need it on all sides of this, and not feeling like the city can only help how many families and we don't know what's going to happen with other people.
Yeah, Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Vita, I agree with you on all those points. And, if we reflect back on what Councilmember Warren has said, information has not been clear. It is now important more than ever to have a clarity of message and a coordination of the message. So we will be working with the MPHA to do exactly what you're talking about, which is have both. We do not want to cause segregation within the community.
Next, we have up in queue, Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, a couple questions. Is SRF the SRS Consulting that does work closely with MPRB? Is it that same organization that's working with Public Works?
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Schaefer, I would expect, yes, it's the same.
Yeah, right off of 394. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful. Can you speak a little bit to the fund that we allocated and what you anticipate spending out of that fund? It seems like even with 83 households, if they were 5 bedrooms, that's not even $1 million yet. And so I'm just trying to understand, some of it was for repair, some of it was for relocation. Can you speak a little bit to, that was kind of a broad umbrella direction to help you. Can you just speak to where you are right now with, okay, how much of that repair is actually going to happen, or is that all going to relocation? Or
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Schaefer, I'll give some context for people because it gets complicated. So when we presented the $2.5 million, that was a number that was primarily for short-term rehab costs. It was for roofing, it was for HVAC improvements, and it was for unit turns. And it went so quickly in the last week before we were in front of the council that we added the relocation and communicated to the council that we'd be working on prioritizing relocation. And so that money came from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. we're looking at the discretions with CPED about where it would go. We could not get to how much it would cost to relocate until we have a plan, and that will come out of this policy. That will give you the benefits. And to your point, it's going to probably not exceed $2.5 million. We will have to pay the relocation consultant. So that the negotiation that we're working on, that's going to take a chunk of that $2.5 million, undetermined at this point in time. And then we're looking at the long term. Like, I don't know if we are going to authorize improvements. We're focused primarily on making sure we have money for relocation. After that, we could have funding available for rehab. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's worth it without a global plan. So CPED has been working on the global plan with the receiver, MPHA, and the property manager, and that is going to require tens of millions of dollars in rehab costs, and I think that might be our focus. We might be tacting towards that focus, and you might see that the $2.5 million isn't fully exhausted through this, but it's still too early to be known, but we'll be reporting out on expenses. We're starting with relocation.
Okay, before Thursday, I would really like to understand what we're paying to SRP. Is it a percentage? Is it a flat rate? I mean, this is getting back to the fiscal note that Councilmember Chowdhury was. So I would like to have that be public knowledge, what we're paying out of the fund. And then also, is that whole 2.5 then? I thought it was for repairs and relocation, but that needs to be clarified to the council. What is it all now, 2.5 going to relocation? That seems like that's going to be more than what we really need. But I'd like to understand what we've already spent on HVAC, et cetera, et cetera. Was that not out of the 2.5? That was a different fund?
Yeah. Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Schaefer, we have $500,000 in the city's budget for Heritage Park. That is being negotiated for air conditioning and HVAC equipment now. The status of the building conditions exceed the available cash that are in that $2.5 million. So then it's again, back to that threshold question I continue to bring up, is it worth putting funding in it if we don't have the global financing package? And that's going to cost tens of millions of dollars. The city will will be asked to participate in that. That will be likely, housing revenue bonds or other, financial instruments to help with that full thing. When it comes to the relocation consultants, SRF, that we're negotiating with, I will say it's in hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is a fee for a service, not a percentage. It's not as if they find something and they get a percentage off. It's a fee for their work. We're still negotiating that. I can give you the estimate as best as I can by Thursday, but we won't have that contract, that scope of work in place by Thursday. Okay. So that'll be think about it, $2.5 million, take off a couple $100,000 for that SRF work, then you'll have some available, and then you might hear from CPED that we're not going to exhaust that $2.5 million if it means just putting money into rehab that's not going to get you to the end goal.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And can you speak to who's ultimately responsible for the major repairs and these tens of millions of dollars?
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Schaefer, it's the owner of the property. And the owner of the property right now is McCormick Barron Salazar, and they have it in a receivership. So Certus Financial is operating as the court-appointed receiver, which means that they have all the ownership duties and responsibilities, but it's up to them to come up with the property, and they can come to us like all other housing developers for financing. But in my opinion, it's not the city's responsibility to write a blank check to the owner of the property.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
And clerks, it sounds like there's a legislative follow-up in that in terms of the estimate, and I think that should be something that's sent to the entirety of the body. Next, we'll go to Councilmember Whiting.
Thank you, Chair Chowdhury. And I think maybe just a threshold question first to make sure I'm hearing this correctly too. And Director, can you kind of explain a little bit to have the same question that Councilmember Schaefer does, particularly about the money at the moment? So it sounds like the 2.5 that we allocated out 2 weeks ago, or whenever that was, I believe
in July.
Okay, perfect. That was specific to both relocation and repairs, because it sounds like you just said that
Yep.
a lot of that has been used up already.
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Whiting, there has not been a nickel spent on the $2.5 million. It is being held. We have another $500,000 that's already in the city's budget that was appropriated through the budget process last December. That funding is for HVAC. We're contracting that because people they need to be able to, they need air coming in. We are focused, and I told the council when I was in front of you that we will focus on relocation and then figure out if there's emergency needs, because you delegated authority to me to make some decisions. And so we're focused on the relocation needs. That's why we need this policy. But as we learn, as this comes into more focus, we need a global plan of what's happening. To Councilmember Warren's point, we continue to learn about windows and siding and roofing and all those sort of things. And so we're not going to be able to repair the needs of Heritage Park with the $2.5 million that's been appropriated.
Thank you. And so it sounds like, the money that you were talking about that was used up quickly is that $500,000 that was already attached to.
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Whiting, we're still contracting that. I don't think that's been spent.
Okay, so then what was the money that has been used up fairly quick that you mentioned? You said that earlier in your presentation, you said there was a lot of money that's already been used to this point. And so I'm trying to figure out if that was the 2.5 or this 500,000.
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Whiting, I don't remember when I said that we used money really quick. So, but
I think it was early in your presentation. You mentioned
in my remarks.
Okay. Yeah. Answering Councilmember Schaefer's question.
So I'm not. There hasn't been any. Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Whiting, just to clear it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
The city of Minneapolis has appropriated $500,000 in its budget. That is being contracted, has not been spent. In July, you moved $2.5 million from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund into this use, and that has not been used. If I said we've used up a lot of money really quickly, I apologize for that. That was an error, but we have not spent it. I will tell you, though, is the expense, what we are learning is that it is becoming more expensive and we need a global solution about what happens with Heritage Park. And in the meantime, the policy gives an option for people to relocate, and then we would start spending money. And then once we start spending money, we'll be communicating that out so that people understand where the money is going.
Thank you. That's helpful. Yep. Thank you for the clarification. Particularly too, I think my first question is, so you noted, I guess, currently, has anyone signed up for these relocation assistance as of today?
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Whiting, nobody has signed up for anything under the city's policy because it doesn't exist yet. Mm-hmm. And so that was the barrier. Like, we couldn't give people relocation assistance because we didn't have the authority based on our conversations with the enterprise. That's why we have to have the communication component to it. So we can communicate, here is what's available, here's how you access it, this is the process, all of those sort of things that are going to become very important very soon.
Yeah. Do we know if anyone signed up for MPHA's transfer assistance yet?
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Whiting, we are familiar with about 32 households that have interest in this, and there is that are working with public housing. I will say that there are 4 households that have expressed interest in the city's program when it starts. But I think there will be I think there will be more people that will show interest once they know what the program is. Once the benefit is articulated, then we will hear from more
And then
residents.
I guess just my last question here is there a reason, is there some policy or kind of reason why it's been sort of differentiated between MPHA and the city of Minneapolis? Like, why isn't it that we're also, like, MPHA residents aren't also able to use city-funded dollars?
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Whiting, I think it's important for the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority to take care of its residents. They have a responsibility to the residents that are in their care. The city is making a discretionary decision to help folks at Heritage Park for the reasons we've articulated over the last few council meetings with you on this subject. And so I think it's the right thing that the city is doing, but we need to make sure that the MPHA uses their resources for the MPHA units, and then we can provide for the ones that do not qualify for them.
That's all. But seems like there's no policy that could preclude us from assisting with the MPHA residents if needed.
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Whiting, I'm not certain if there's a policy or not. I know that the city has some restrictions on how we are managing or potentially interfering with public housing operations. I could look at it if there's like a definitive choice. I mean, there's what can we do is a question, and what should we do? And I'm going to tell you the policy that we have in front of you is the thing that we should be doing.
Helpful. Yeah, because I think, just to both Councilmember Warren and Councilmember Vital's comments, I think, right, if we are starting to see some discrepancies between, I think, certain programs, or we're seeing an extended wait time for MPHA or City of Minneapolis, kind of the two different programs. And I think there might be an ability, it sounds like, to kind of assist where needed.
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Whiting, the first approach to that is to make sure that we're working as quickly as possible at the same pace, and hold the MPHA to the same standards that we would hold ourselves to.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I put myself in queue next. So I was able to reference a policy that kind of followed the same policy framework, and this was like the perpetually affordable housing program changes. So that was helpful for me to look back on myself. The thing that I feel like we need on this RCA by Thursday in order for me to vote on this is a fiscal note, because there is clearly a fiscal impact. It says currently in the RCA that there is no fiscal impact, but we know that's in this discussion that there will be. So if we could update an estimate within the fiscal note for transparency and the work that we're doing, is that something you can do?
Chair Chowdhury, I can explain why there isn't a fiscal note.
Yeah.
So this is a policy that is being appended, is the next step from the appropriation that you guys approved, which does have a fiscal note back in July. And so this is just the policy that helps us direct how to use the funding that was moved from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund into this appropriation for Heritage Park. But we can bring that fiscal note back up.
I think that's really important, because when the public reads this, it says no fiscal impact anticipated. So even if it's the same fiscal note, I think it's important, because a lot of folks are following this closely, and in the future we might need to look back on it. The other thing is there isn't a RIA attached to it either, and I think a race equity analysis would be really important for this policy. And maybe as a as a legislative follow-up, it's like, once this is completed, what happens to this policy? Like, is it sunsetted? Does the department just make a call? Because for our perpetually affordable housing program, that just continues, right?
Yep. Chair Chowdhury, the intent of this policy is to be time limited. You would have to move by the 31st of, you'd have to tell us by the 10th or the 15th of October, and move by the end of January of next year with a 6-month buffer for circumstances. But then this is tailored exactly to Heritage Park relocation at this moment. So it would be unique to this situation, and it would not live on after the last person took advantage of the policy.
Okay. And are you able to attach a RIA to this as you have for other programs?
Chair Chowdhury will do our best for between now and Thursday.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you're doing your best, and I think we're moving this through really quickly. And at the same time, like, Director, you're providing us very dense policy with very significant financial implications for the city and implications for residents here. And so just the basics of this request for committee action are really important to me, because I think not having it today is positing more questions than I anticipated. So that's why I'm asking for that.
Chair Chaudhry, I would say that I think it's important and imperative for the city to move. If we're thinking about the racial equity impact of not acting, we're putting people in, communities of color, Black folks in North Minneapolis, in circumstances where they cannot get out of. And so we can put that into an analysis, but I can tell you just off the top this is addressing community need exactly where the community needs us to be.
Yeah, I 100% hear you, and I'm not debating that whatsoever. But there's a level of oversight that's necessary for us to do our work, and I am genuinely just struggling with it. This is a dense policy load that's before us, and within the CPED department, when you bring forward program changes, you have a very thorough background analysis and RIAs. You always do, and as a committee member of the Business Housing Zoning Committee, I rely on those and have relied on those for agenda settings and on items that we have to vote on because they can be complicated. So I do think it's a fair ask to say that we need that, and I don't think it's in competition with moving urgently. But it's like, this is the legislative body, this is what we need to, I'll just speak for myself, this is what I need in order to make such a significant change. And I mean, if other members are fine with that, I totally understand that, but I wanna say, I know that there are other council members that are wondering the same thing, and also getting questions from constituents, the media, that I can't answer. That's difficult, especially when I take an affirmative vote on something.
Right.
And I think we are all in super shared agreement on the urgency and the need, especially the race equity components of it. It's just having that clarity, I'm just stating, it's just not there fully in the way that it needs to be.
And I agree with you, Chair Chaudhry. It is important to have information. This situation is not, the typical approach to the way CPED does its work. We're trying to meet the needs, as I was communicated and shared in this presentation. We're trying to meet the needs of community in a situation that if we had more time, we'd take it. And we're working with imperfect information. We're moving as fast as we can, and we'll get you as much of the information as we can by Thursday.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think like just the clarity on the fiscal note, so it doesn't say there's no fiscal impact, and like even just diving a little bit more on like that sunsetting piece and like that type of intention and the background analysis that CPED usually does, a little bit more would be helpful. And I just want to say, like, thank you for your work on this, and thank you to your team for working on this. I know it's not easy. I know it's really around the clock. I know that you guys are really pressed for time. And I think that is reflective of like, this isn't the same level of information that shows up in our Business Housing and Zoning Committee. So I hope you take that feedback genuinely. I mean it. Like, I appreciate it. Next on queue is Councilmember Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Director Hanson, we talked about a couple of, I'm listening to you as you're saying what's going on with this relocation program. SRF firm is currently getting ready to be paid $400,000 by the city of Minneapolis to be a fiscal agent. They're only providing about 2 staff people to support with the assistance in relocation, when in North Minneapolis, currently, specifically in Ward 5, we have organizations like Al Maun, North Point, and the Urban League Twin Cities who are able to support the residents, who've been working with the residents, because this is a predominantly Black and Muslim community. So it would be beneficial for them to work with individuals who are connected directly with their autonomy. If the city's relocation plan provides assessment services that consider schooling, transportation, household preferences, housing availability, and all of these very human-centered approaches around autonomy, then whether you're a resident of public housing or not, you still should be given that same grace and human-centeredness and the ability to work with people that are directly within your community, so that there is a very cultured and human-centered approach. I want that changed. I'm not working with SRF or whoever those people are. If we're going to pay $400,000, it's going to North Minneapolis. We did something else like that already. We won't have more of the same. Next thing with this, because the other component in this is that they can't articulate, the residents who are having issues around saying, yes, I want to move, is because they're constantly being lied to by everybody. Everybody keeps changing the story up. There's no consistency. When I talked about this in the beginning and I said housing insecurity is a real thing, I don't know if you don't get it or you don't understand when I say it. Like, if you don't know what housing insecurity means, that means the difference between being housed and unhoused, the difference between me getting my car towed and being able to pay my rent. You know, the difference between one little mistake, living paycheck to paycheck, the difference between buying diapers and eating today means that I might not be able to pay my rent tomorrow if I have to spend too much or the price goes up. Like, that housing insecurity is a real place. The barriers that individuals have to housing, backgrounds, previous landlords, individuals who are being retaliated against in this situation, dealing with MPHA and Property Solutions. Now, still currently, there are residents who are going to court and are experiencing housing barriers. This $2.5 million that we allocated towards Heritage Park would essentially equate to about $12,000 per household for all 211 families. Instead, we've discounted it and we're paying all of these additional administrative costs. There's not anything that anyone needs to do, really, essentially, to qualify to move. Everybody is eligible. They should be. The truth is, it's not habitable. It's not anywhere that anyone should want to live. Like, it's a real place. And I think that, yes, as the city, we can't tell people you have to go, but what we should do is give them proper information around the implications of black mold. I still got some stuff growing on my arm from being out there door knocking. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's still growing there. It's very visible. Being out there if it's doing this to my arm, in addition to sitting right underneath the herc and everything else that's going on over there, all of these conditions weigh a heavy factor on how people are living in this situation. There should not be any gaslighting going on here. They can't articulate it because they're being lied to. And the residents have a community meeting every Tuesday. I know, because I go. And they're working with organizations like North Point, like the NAACP, like Zara, Holistic Healthcare and Wellness. Those are people that are centered in the needs in the community, and they've come forward. We've tried to, make warm introductions and transfer, because people are essentially going to want to talk to someone who looks like them and understands their struggle and where they're coming from. Not whoever these SRF people are. I'm sure they're nice folks. Great, thank you. I ain't seen them not one time. And no information has been even provided to me to make a warm introduction of, hey, community, here's some people that are coming that are not going to examine you like lab rats. When we're talking about human-centeredness and we're looking at assessing community members' needs, this is not, you know what I mean? We don't want people picked apart. We got folks that are experiencing some real serious challenges. When you're going through transition and transitional change, anything could cause CPS to get involved in your life. Anything could cause anything to happen, right? So the delicacy that we've already placed and put things in place within our community of North Minneapolis in its exactness, it's important that the city works with the community in that position. I really North Point's Black Social Worker Network, Dr. Bravado, all of these wonderful individuals, our Fremont Clinic, North Memorial Hospital, all of these individuals are ready and prepared to do a very human-centered and holistic approach with these residents. I appreciate all of this stuff. It's great, but I don't know who SRF is, and that frightens me. And I'm sorry, I have to say that. And paying them $400,000 also frightens me because that's taken away from the residents. That's over 15%. When it was, when it was Operation Metro Surge and we gave all of that money to, it was over 3 or so million or whatever to, what was it, 6 million we gave to the agencies over South to help with rental assistance. They charged a 5% administrative fee, right? Why are we paying so much money to SRF? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So the residents to the community have been having a meeting. It is a division because it's public housing and the non-public housing individuals who have housing choice voucher stuff. I get it, 83 households. We have more than enough to help 83 households, but we also have enough to help 211 households too, with $12,000 essentially per household, $11,889,000 per household could help them. And if we did a 5% administrative fee, that would be $125,000, and we could pay that to somebody because all they're really doing is paying for accounting and bookkeeping. The people who need help need housing supportive services and things like that, application fees and what have you. The money is there. It's how are we managing it, how are we using it, but we do have more than enough. Essentially, that would be about $4,000 a month would be enough to help a family stabilize itself. And I think that on top of whatever their already acquired income is, I think they would be okay. I don't see that as an issue. If I had an extra $4,000 a month, I'd be okay too. So I think they'll be just fine if everybody spreads the wealth evenly across the board and starts using yardsticks and whatever else, because like I said, the 128 people are the people who really need the support. And I know MPHA has a job, but at this point, I don't even think those people show up for work. I left a message at their voice answering service. They got an answering service, Eric. When you call, you can't reach a real person. And they still haven't called me back. And it's been weeks. So I don't know how they're responding to the needs of these people. And I understand that someone is there providing what they call a relocation packet for individuals who have housing choice vouchers on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The city is there, but that's not the same as what's called a transfer packet. A transfer packet is what's utilized for an individual who is a participant of public housing, so they can transfer to another public housing space, or they can port out to another city, whether it's Metro HRA or Ramsey HRA or Dakota County CDA or what have you. They can move into another if MPHA is saying that they don't have the capacity, but no one is helping them with that, and then they're being told that they got to qualify and someone needs to come and look. It just is not making sense to me, and I wish that everyone would really get their act together, because this is ridiculous. But I don't agree with SRF. I don't agree with giving them that $400,000. That doesn't make any sense to me, because I don't know what they're doing with it. They should already have accountants and people who do, Salesforce or however they're utilizing their client-based service record data keeping stuff should already be in place. It's not like they're buying new software or whatever else. If we're going to allow for something like that to be done, we probably really need to invest in putting that in North Minneapolis directly, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. Everything else over there is going to need some examining too, right? So this is just the worst of the worst. So it would be better to have it in-house and get that stuff together over there. But this is, I don't agree with them at all for that. And the residents may not want to relocate, but we really need to give them stern advisement about the health. I'm really kind of feeling a way that our public health department has not come forward and talked about the public health and safety implementations that this living condition is having on people. And I would expect it to have heard more of a statement from our public health department besides the fact that there's mold in the air everywhere, because we know that. But this is black mold, and black mold has a different impact on your lungs and on your body. So, on your entire well-being, right? And I'm just thinking about how that really needs to come forward. But if people stop gaslighting the residents and just tell them the truth, then individuals can make a well-informed, conscious choice, instead of a decision to think about whether this will be short-term or long-term, because this is going to be long-term. Heritage Park buildings cannot be rehabbed in 6 months, not in 8 months, not in 3 months. It will be more than a year's worth of work that needs to go on over there in order to bring it up to par. And the fact that we're spending money on air conditioning units and central air units over there to blow the mold spores around is just ridiculous. All of the HVAC units, the 168 of them that were placed in there over the winter when people didn't have heat, Eric, we know have to be replaced because they contain mold spores. Like, we don't want to hustle backwards. Let's not hustle backwards. Let's move forward. My campaign slogan was moving us forward. Let's move forward. Let's do the right thing, Let's move forward, and let's ensure that people have right information so they can make right choices and clear, understanding, access, and the opportunity, to don't strip people of their autonomy. We cannot do that. Like, I'm seeing this, and literally every day it breaks my heart. I sat in my car for an hour on Friday after Alfred called me and cried. Because I'm like, these are public housing residents. They're not going anywhere. They're the ones who are being gaslit through this whole thing. MPHA's not doing enough. This wasn't even our stuff, but we stood up. Mm-hmm. I called Jacob and I said, hey, I need you to flex your strong mayor muscle or something, because this is not fair to our people. We give them $5,000 a year to go towards their levy. I'm not saying that they got $5,000 sitting in a pot somewhere, but in a vault, but I'm saying that we've contributed a lot to help support them. They're not preserving people, they're not preserving housing stock, and they're not preserving opportunity. No one's putting the people first, because this would not have gone on for as long as it has.
Chair Chaudhry, Councilmember Warren, the city is putting the people first when it comes to what we can do here. I think we need to make sure that we're not letting the Public Housing Authority off the hook. They do receive levy. It's $5 million.
Right.
They have resources, and the political pressure needs to be applied so that they use it. And they've been showing that they're coming to the table. And so we have to continue to work with them so that those 128 public housing units still get the transfer benefits, those transfer packages you were talking about. It is a very complicated situation. You and I have had this conversation multiple times. We talk a lot about Heritage Park, and I've used some of your turns of phrases with Band-Aid on a bullet wound, and also so you talk about the HVAC units. We should be looking at that, because some people will not move. Back to centering to their agency of the residents, some people will not move. And so we have to look at the conditions on which they're living, and if we can help with that, then we should be providing it. I'm just saying to us as a city, we should not be throwing all of the money into it until we have a global plan, and that's what we're working as hard as we can to get to, is that global plan, which is going to be, you're right, it's going to be like a year and a half plus or minus a couple months on both ends. Right, so it could be 18 months to 2 years to rehab Heritage Park, and that hasn't started. And with respect to SRF, they're not coming out and talking to people because they're not under contract. If we would bring in organizations from other that are not contracted, I would have to go through a procurement process. I'd have to go through an RFP. And so if that's
RFP would only take 30 days, correct?
would take 30 days, then we'd have to contract. You would not see relocation assistance available until the middle of the summer or middle of the fall. And that is unacceptable for me. I think we need to be able to push this funding out as quickly as we can, and the staff and the team have come up with a way to do that. It's not perfect. Nothing is perfect in a unplanned situation, and so that's why we're suggesting here that we work with a contract we already have in place, and if we have community-minded supporters, that's positive. But I want to make sure that we can get to a point where we can start sitting down with households and finding out where they are and where they can be as soon as possible. And I think another 2 months of waiting for a contract to be in place is 2 months we don't have.
I hear exactly what you're saying. I have so many questions for this invisible company, this SRF. Yeah. Like, do you have any experience in working with minority population? That's just like me going to go pick a realtor who I'm choosing to go buy a house with, and he has no experience working with a first-time home buyer. You know, you don't know how to help people with, wine taste and beer money. I mean, I don't know who these people are, and they're taking a lot off the top. Yeah. So I see this as somebody seizing more of an opportunity than I do more as jumping in. And then what happens if they're not meeting the standard? What happens if the community complains and they don't feel comfortable or they're not getting exactly what it is that they need? We got to go to our RFP too then again, don't we? What's happening?
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Warren, that's the, I'm not going to opine on how much it's going to cost. I just know it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars based on the scope of work.
Alfred told me.
And then we're managing. Well, that's not something we've agreed to with SRF yet.
Oh, well.
But we have to manage that contract. We have to set expectations, and we're expecting to set those expectations to meet the needs of the community. And so if SRF is not meeting the expectations, then CPED is not doing its job. So just rest assured that we're going to be managing the contract so that the needs are being met. And those questions about cultural competence is something that we are asking as well. Like, how do you know who, have you worked with communities that, vulnerable communities like this before? And if we don't get a suitable answer, then we might have to go to an RFP. But we need as a city to look at this option because it gets the money available sooner.
I understand, and I am agreeing with the urgency because I, like you, want the families to get the help that they need. It's been far too long, but I don't want it to be done any old kind of way just because, and I don't want them being shortchanged in the process either, because I broke it down, $12,000 per household, 211 families, 686 people. It all, the math mathed, right? So those are just some of my thoughts, and I know that we are not, and we shouldn't let MPHA off the hook. I just really hope that we as a city look at who we're assigning to our boards and that we are attentive of who we are placing in these positions, so that we can ensure that we have the right oversight when it comes to our public housing and supporting the residents who need the most support. Like, public housing was designed to help these individuals and keep them from being in situations like this. This is what our public tax dollars go to support and help the most vulnerable in our community who need an extra boost and some extra support, and I don't think that, it should have ever gotten to this point. and that their humanity or their autonomy should be discounted for any reason. So I thank you for your work on this, Eric, and I know we're going to continue to talk about this, but those are my concerns and my frustrations. And, you know, I don't mind being vocal about it all. And I'm not happy with Certus, and I'm not happy with Property Solutions.
Okay.
So, just so we have that on the record too as well. Thank you. The end.
Thank you. The last person that we have on queue is Councilmember Schaefer.
One other question around, if you could speak a little bit in the policy of why you were bumping anywhere from the current rent to the anticipated new future rent was anywhere from like $250 to $450 for each bedroom. Can you speak a little bit to that? The reason I'm asking about it is just knowing this is a short-term fix, knowing that 12 months from now, most likely, people will not be able to move back into their unit. They'd have to go through the whole leasing process again. I am concerned that 12 months from now, we're going to be in the same situation where folks, because of not having the differential of the extra $250 or to $450 a month, are going to be over their skis in being able to stay in that unit that we provided for them for a year.
Yeah. Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Schaefer, thanks for those questions. I put the table back up. These are illustrative. This is a average estimated monthly rent based on affordability figures based on a 1-bedroom to 5 bedrooms. There is an expectation that the reason we provide this stipend for rent differential is because of a shock where you're moving from one place and then the rent goes up. And this gives the ability for a household to stabilize their budgets, to figure out how to control for that rental increase, and you're in month 13. This is typical of relocation policies that we have had, is to give a certain period of time for people to make it, and we see mostly that households will put their money into rent first and other things, and then we're trying to make it as clean and easy as possible for that move to take place by offering the moving stipend, which varies from $3,500 to $7,500 depending on bedroom size, but that's also a way for them to absorb that shock of moving and make it as smooth as possible.
Okay, and so you're confident a year from now we won't be in the same situation with another policy?
Chair Chowdhury, Councilmember Schaefer, we already know that there's an extraordinary burden on renters in the city of Minneapolis. The people who live at Heritage Park are most likely in the same situation where they're paying more than 30% or higher than their income on rent. So it's unaffordable rent in a lot of cases. And so we will still have that problem regardless of what we do, whether we're in Heritage Park. I would imagine that there are folks in Heritage Park that are rent burdened now, and so they will unfortunately continue to be rent burdened in the future. The city, in the way the structure of housing and income inequality, we're just not in a position to address that problem, but it'll be a problem throughout the city, not just these 83 households.
Well, thank you for trying to figure out the best way to handle this, and that explanation helps me. I would just say with SRF, in your continued negotiations, with that number, if that number is correct, that's about $5,000 per family or per unit. And that is almost equal to the 1-bedroom relocation. And so maybe there's some way we can tier it to the size of the unit or some sort like that. But thank you for your work on this. We're going to make it through.
Okay.
We just got to help everybody else make it through.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Are there any other council members that want to get into queue? Seeing none, is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Second.
Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. That motion carries. Our
Thank you.
next discussion item was originally scheduled for the Climate and Infrastructure meeting
What?
last Thursday, August 6th, but was postponed due to time. This item authorizes a no-cost contract with On-Course Home Solutions for a sewer lateral insurance program. I'll invite Ross Jonak, manager with Sanitary Sewers Division, to get us started about this new program. Welcome.
Chair Cowdery and council members, thanks for having me this afternoon. I'm here to talk about the private sewer lateral insurance. He said my name, but it's Ross Jonak again, manager of the business team for the Surface Water and Sewers Division. Before getting more into like the program and some other things that we do to help people with their sewer laterals, just wanted to kind of go over the basics of the sewer lateral and some of the common problems that occur. So with the sewer lateral, it's one of those things that a lot of homeowners don't realize that they own and that they have to maintain. It's the lateral that leaves your house, and it takes your waste. It takes your toilet waste. It takes your sink, your dishwasher, your shower, your clothes washer. It takes all of that, and it conveys it to the main that's out in the middle of the street. A lot of homeowners don't realize that they do own that sewer lateral all the way from their house, all the way through the yard, out to the street, under the sidewalk, as well as the connection. So that's in city ordinance, been existing for a long time. Some of the common issues that exist with these lines is root intrusion. So all those wonderful trees, they are great at finding moisture, and so they will go out there and they will find moisture in the sewer line, and so they find a crack and they start to develop issues within the line. Probably the number one thing that we get calls about is people having root intrusions into the line. So cracks exist. Also, the gap at the connection to the main can develop issues where it disconnects. Another common one that's not in the image here is there'll be dips in the line. So at some point, the erosion happened below the line, it dips out, and then those dips start to not let the gravitary flow of the line occur anymore. So most of these lines in the city they're original, right? So they're original from when the home was built. Majority of homes in Minneapolis were built prior to 1939. So, we're looking at 90, 100. We see up to 150 years, right? So there's some of these lines are really, really old. Average repair costs that we see for the ones that kind of come through our programs is $13,000. There's definitely a wide range. I've seen up to $40,000. So can get really expensive to repair these things. Current programs that we have right now is we have a private sewer lateral grant program. Homeowners can get grants of $5,000, $7,500, or $10,000 grants. This funding comes from Met Council. We've been doing the program for 3 years now. This year we had 350 applications and only enough funding for 36 grants. And so definitely a long wait list, and that 350 applications, those are all homeowners who submitted that they proved that they had issues with their line. It's not just people saying, "Oh, I'm interested in applying." These are all people that have had like contractors' reports saying, "Yep, fix your line," and heard about the program and applied for it. So definitely a big need there. Definitely evidenced by just the number of people applying for that this year. The other program we have is an assessment program. And so with this, the Sanitary Sewer Fund financially supports individuals fixing their line. They can assess it to their property taxes at a 5, 10, 15 or 20-year payback period. In 2025, there was 116 property owners that took advantage of this program at the cost to the Sanitary Sewer Fund of $1.1 million in repairs. Just as we were sitting there, we have an online application system. I got one in. And the homeowner's facing $25,000 and $600, and they're choosing to assess that over 20 years. So they can always pay back early, but as a homeowner, now you're having to pay that back, and it's going to be on your property taxes. And so it's great the program exists, but it's not always the best thing when you already have property taxes that are going up as well to have something else on there. So private sewer lateral insurance. And so we issued an RFP earlier in 2026. With this program, it's 100% optional. It's not being forced on any homeowner. No one needs to sign up for it. The city endorsing a company allows homeowners to get a better rate and coverage limit than what is available on the open market. For the most part, no city funds will be used for this, so it's not costing the city any money. The city will provide branding and customer contact information. So that is really kind of the part on the city side. You put your logo on there, and we want to stand behind a company to provide a good service. And many cities in Minnesota and around the country have similar partnerships. And so this is nothing new. We're not, not coming up with a new idea. It's very, very common around the country. From the RFP, we've decided to go with On-Course Home Solutions. They are endorsed by the National League of Cities. The rate that they're offering for the first 3 years of this program is, for the first year, it would be $5.49 per month for a homeowner. And then after that first year, it would go up to $9.99 per month after that, first 12 months. The coverage limit, number 3 there, is an unlimited dollar coverage limit for repair or replacement of residential or sewer service lines. That's why I was mentioning those costs earlier, that you get really, really expensive. If you can have insurance and it's going to cover that versus only covering part of it, it's a great deal. This insurance also has additional benefits, $1,000 per occurrence for out-of-pocket restoration costs, $1,500 for hotel accommodations, or $500 pet boarding. So really that number 3 is one of the big reasons why we wanted to go with On-Course, along with the rate that they're offering. In addition to that, they're offering a $100,000 community partnership fund. It's a one-time amount of money to come to the city. And then number 5 there would be an annual $50,000 customer hardship fund. That fund would be something where we would refer a homeowner to them and, cover. It could be someone who doesn't have the insurance. The way these programs work, not everyone's going to hear about it, right? There's going to be a lot of marketing that happens, but someone might not heard about it, just didn't sign up for it, didn't feel like they could, afford the extra amount of money per month, but they're in a hardship situation. So another good example is this last year, we got a call from a caseworker, and there was a woman whose line backed up, and we definitely have programs to help fix that line, the assessment program or the grant, but we don't have programs to help with the cleanup that might occur and stuff like that, and so something like that is something we could refer to this amount of money. $50,000 probably wouldn't go very far. It gets spent up quickly. But next steps with this program, we need to refine and improve the contract with On-Course. I'm currently working on that. Outreach to neighborhood associations, develop a city website just so people have a place to go if they're questioning what the program is about. Approve the marketing materials that On-Course will use. Anything they send out, we will approve and have 100% approval for. And then that last thing, kind of mentioned that, was just to set up some guidelines for that annual $50,000 hardship fund. And, at what point do we refer someone who calls? And finally, just again, thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions now, or if there's any in-person briefings anyone wants, would be happy to meet with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ross. This is really exciting presentation. Kind of glad that we had it move into Cal so everyone could get it. We have a couple of council members in queue. We can go to Councilmember Whiting first.
Thank you, Chair Chowdhury, and thank you to Ross and Angie. I know this has been something I am aggressively excited about, particularly here for Ward 11 being one of the highest homeownership wards in the city. And this is a strong statement coming from someone that hates insurance, hate insurance broadly, so anyone that knows me does, and I could not be in more support of a policy like this. I think it is helpful for individuals to know, and I think maybe by example, I got a call from my mom, probably about 6 months ago, particular to, she was extremely worried, kind of like, Jameson, how in the heck am I going to retire? And I'm like, Mom, hold on, what's going on? What's actually happening? And so there was a root intrusion. She got, I think, an estimate of somewhere upwards of $15,000 to come in and replace her sewer line that she didn't know that she had or even existed. And so I think this is something, what she told me there was like, hey, can you figure this out at the city? And I was like, Mom, it takes a little bit longer than that. But so thank you for putting me in good graces with my mom. But I can't thank you enough for this work, and particularly to my predecessor as well, Councilmember Koski, for kind of putting this in motion. It's one of the things that we talked about initially, right when I came into office here. And I know her 4 years of work to get this off the ground as well. And so, again, I just can't thank, Public Works, you all well enough for doing this with a level of speed, transparency, and I think accuracy for this. I think the only question that I have particular to kind of the hardship fund that we have on here, kind of the 50,000, and then the community partnership fund of kind of that initial one-time payment. Looking at those like 350 applicants that for kind of that lateral sewer grant, I just kind of did quick math of, if we took that at the average repair, right, that's $4.5 million across all of those applicants for one year in the city of Minneapolis. I guess the question is, how often are we kind of seeing these things kind of pop up and happen across the city of Minneapolis where there's some level of lateral sewer line replacement or repair? I know repair happen more often than a full replacement does.
Chair Chowdhury and Councilmember Whiting, I don't have the numbers for you. It's often. And we see the ones that are coming through the grant and assessment program. There are some, they don't come through those programs and they're just calling a contractor. I could definitely pull some numbers. We can pull the permit numbers and how many permits are happening. It's a good estimate of, it's a lot.
Great. Yeah. No, yeah. That's really helpful. I think it's just let us know how we can be helpful to kind of get the word out. I did some more quick math because you can tell how much I hate insurance. It would take 108 years of paying into this insurance to get to that average repair cost. And so I think the investment is well worth the rub here. So thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Councilmember Warren.
Thank you, Chair. This is great. All of the sewer lines underneath my house collapsed about 2 years ago. Where you been? What it was a real place. It was devastating. But I know how expensive and how detrimental that this can be for people. And I know that we also have an extremely long waiting list. When we opened up the application period for the city earlier this year, I had a number of residents calling saying, when can I apply? How do I get on there? What do I need to send, blah, 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 what have you. And that we're even having trouble uploading photos or, inspection reports in hopes of being chosen. So with this insurance, individuals who have pre-existing conditions, especially our seniors who've been waiting to get picked on this lottery system that we have through the city, are they eligible for this insurance? Or, because sometimes insurance don't cover pre-existing conditions. Help me.
Chair Chowdhury and Councilmember Warren, yes, in talking with Encore's Home Solutions, we had the RFP in their response, and then we had them in for a presentation, and that's one of our questions. It's very common. People know they have root intrusions, and so we want to make sure that wasn't going to be an exclusion. They said it wasn't going to be, and when we do the contract, we're going to make sure that's part of it as well, so it's in writing.
Okay, yeah. I would love a report back to make sure that individuals are eligible for this insurance, because this is something that would greatly benefit, I know, especially our seniors, because people have gotten injured carrying those huge augers up out of the basement, those 150 footers that got to go to try to clear out the lines and get all the root stuff out. Yeah. That stuff is dangerous, carrying it up and down, to try to, otherwise you got to pay so much money, like $500-600 to have someone go through your main stack all the way out or through your clean out and whatever else. That can get very expensive. And so knowing that we have these beautiful and amazing tree canopies that love sewage water, in our front yards and things, but they definitely, do a lot of damage to the underground piping, and we want to make sure, because getting it sleeved can go anywhere between $8,000 all the way up to $50,000 to $60,000. I know, because when I'm telling you, they collapsed underneath my house, and the city sent me out a list. It was like 15 or 16 different contractors of who they allowed to come in contact with their lines, because the lines from our house go all the way to meet the sewage line in the city. And so if they got to open up, excavate, and then disrupt the sidewalk and whatever else, like the homeowner has to pay for all of that. And that is not cheap at all. And so getting those different bids and things, I just want to make sure it will cover pre-existing conditions and that people will be able to get the help that they need if they're not eligible to take advantage of the lottery system. We're trying to help as many people as we can with the grant program with the city, but I know that this will give other folks some hope too. Thank you. The end.
Next, we have Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you, Chair Chowdhury. I have a question. Thank you very much for this work. Very excited to continue to share this with residents. Is there any opportunity for water lateral pipe insurance for water pipes?
Yeah, Chair Chowdhury and Councilmember Schaefer, in working with our water division, they don't feel there's a need. Part of that is a lot of the breaks that happen with water lines are lead service lines, and so they've had funding available to like replace those for individuals. And there probably are some extreme cases where other ones do break, but they felt having it involved would be a waste of money for individuals, that they would be paying for something that's not needed.
Well, there's a lot of lead pipes that are still out in our system, and so I think people would like to, but maybe lead isn't a requirement for insurance. It has to actually break for replacement costs. And then can you speak to, just briefly, any of the condition of the city connections? I've heard that our city pipes are not great shape. Is that primarily the sewer? Is that primarily the water? Maybe you're not the right person, but.
Chair Chowdhury and Councilmember Schaefer, I can give you a general answer. We can definitely have a longer conversation, I think. But we, as a division, we do have an asset management program where we're looking at the health of our system, and this is the sewer system. And we have an active capital program to replace the sewer lines. So it's something that is nothing to be ignored. We need to keep doing it, but we definitely have a plan.
Okay. All right, now that we all have all the laterals get replaced, we won't want to have a major with the main. But thank you for your work on this. It's exciting.
Thank you. And next we'll go to Councilmember Whiting.
Yes, sorry. And Councilmember Schaefer, the same question that I asked as well about the water lines. And it's my understanding that it's a kind of an add-on project. So it's not under kind of the city's endorsement, but it is something that you can add on as part of your package, but it wouldn't be under the city's kind of endorsement of. And so it's a program that you could, like, we could as individuals go on right now and purchase those insurances. So yeah. And then the last kind of question here, maybe for the city attorney's office, I've never done a no cost contract before, at least acceptance, is will this come back to us, or since it is under the threshold of council authorization, does it not come back before the body?
Well, I don't know if you have, generally speaking, because it's a non-standard contract form, even though there's no cost, it would come back to the council because it's not on a standard template. And so this council action is to authorize entering into the contract, and then and I'll defer to kind of the timeline, but then it would come back to approve the contract itself.
Chair Chowdhury and Councilmember Whiting, yes, that's my understanding as well. It's we started this process. It was, do we even need to do an RFP? And it's like, ask those questions. It's, it's non-standard. We're going to be endorsing and picking a company over other ones. So, we'll go through this process and, come back with the contract,
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. What would be the rate if we didn't endorse this? Do you know what the comparable is and how much we're saving with the endorsement for folks?
Chair Chowdhury, I'm sorry. I don't know the exact what it would be. I do know competing companies, they might have a similar monthly rate, but their coverage limit's $12,000.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and this is unlimited?
Unlimited, yes.
Okay, that's great. Okay, that's the only question that I had. Members, is there anyone else in queue? Seeing no one else in queue, can I ask for a motion? Oh, sorry, Councilmember Warren. Didn't see you there. Go ahead.
Thank you. You said it was for unlimited amount of repairs and stuff, but typically if a sewage line is sleeved and it's repaired after, you get that casting put in there, because I got mine sleeved, and then it's under warranty for the next 25 to 30 years, Like, you wouldn't need the insurance to continue to pay it anymore. See, I'm worried about this because you said it'll cover the pre-existing conditions, and then you're saying unlimited numbers of repair. But once you get your line sleeved or you get the line replaced, then the line would then be underneath the service warranty of whomever replaced the line and did the stuff. So then you wouldn't necessarily need to keep paying the premium for insurance.
Chair Chowdhury and Councilmember Warren, in some of the situations, they're not going to replace it just off the bat. You know, they're going to try and reestablish the flow of the line.
Correct.
Take
And
the
that's
roots out
with
of
the
there.
sleeving. And even with the sleeving has about a 25-year warranty on the sleeving of a line. So they jet it out with over 400 or 500 psi of water, clean it out. Then they're going to run that sleeve through there. Then they're going to curate it, and then it's essentially like a whole new pipe that is then put through the sewage line. I know I watched the whole process with a camera. It was slick as I don't know what, I'm telling you. But now I'm under the warranty of the company that put my sewage. So they gave me a warranty that's good for 25 years. So if I had an insurance, why would I continue to pay the premium? Because all of those lines, clean out included, all run through the same sewage system, essentially, unless this is covering the stack in the inside of a home, the main stack. No, this is just for the lateral lines out exterior to the home, correct? Okay.
Chair Chowdhury and Councilmember Warren, you're right. As a homeowner, it's 100% optional. So if you just add it fixed, you don't need it anymore. So you don't have to keep,
Right.
you cancel it and you stop paying.
I mean, because that little $5 and stuff could go towards some eggs. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, and it looks like on the website, there's a pretty clear spot for program cancellation, which is really helpful. Members, I'm not seeing anyone else in queue, so is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Excellent. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion, all those opposed say nay. That motion carries. And thank you for the presentation. And seeing no further business before us and with no objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned.